Hello, my name is Brenda. My channel is Handwork Maniac, and it is New Year's Day 2021. Happy New Year, everyone. This video will be my 2020 wrap-up and a finish parade, and then right after this video I will do a whip parade of the current whips that I am taking, that will be my whips for 2021, that I'm starting with. Okay. For the year 2020, these are the pages I kept in my bullet journal to track everything. Over here was a list of all the whips that I started 2020 with. And then over here I had a list of things I started in 2020, starts and finishes that I finished in 2020. So I began the year with 28 whips. And I ended the year with 28 whips. I thought I was going to end the year with 27 whips, and I worked so hard to finish one more thing before the end of the year so I could at least be down one, and then realized that I had forgotten to put one of my new starts on the list, so it's still 28. And I had 2 New Year new starts that I started last week because of the way my vacation falls this year. I work at a school, so I have 2 weeks off around Christmas. And because I have to be back to work on Monday, and I knew New Year's Day was a Friday, and I had to be back to work on Monday, I decided to start them early so I'd have more time to work on them. So I didn't even put those 2 on this list because technically they're New Year starts. And it's my list and I can count them however I want, right? So I'm counting those as New Year new starts. They'll go on my next, on 2021. So even not counting those, I'm still just even. 28. Started with 28, ended with 28. That's okay. It was a crazy year. I'm actually impressed that I stayed even considering how many things I started this year. All right. I think that's everything I did. Oh, I was impressed that 13, so I started 25 things this year and I finished 25 things, which is why my number stayed the same. But I was impressed that 13 of my finishes were from my whips that I started the year with. And then apparently 15 of the one I'm ending the year with, I started this year. But that means I finished 13 of the ones I started this year sometime. So that was good. All right, we're just going to quickly go through all of the things that I finished this year. And I'm going to do them in chronological order, hopefully. So the first one was really, technically, it was listed twice in my whips, so it counted as 2 finishes, which I didn't figure out until my math didn't make sense at the end of the year. And then I finally realized it was listed twice as a whip, and that's why it wasn't working out. It was listed on my whip list. In fact, one of the ones that was in craft prison forever was this EGA, Embroidery Guild of America, basic sewing kit activity we were doing, and we were doing 1 piece a month. One month we did the box top, and this one I designed myself. They were all, forgot to turn off one of my alarms. It's actually an alarm that I use at work. It's been going off this entire vacation every day at this time. We did, each of the pieces were designed by someone in the guild, so they're not patterns that you can go out and buy. But we did a pin cushion needle roll, and it's black work. And we did this is a CC work where you're stitching the negative space and then a little bit of back stitching on the object. It's just like a little pocket thing. A scissor fob that is also that same technique. And then I stopped participating in that activity, and so it sat in my whip pile forever, and we were trying kind of a different technique every month, and I realized I didn't want to do any of the other techniques to finish up the box. So I thought about what maybe one more thing that a basic sewing kit would need, because it was supposed to be things you would have in a basic sewing kit. And I finally decided the only thing that was missing was a pin cushion. So I just chose a pattern that I liked to finish up this project and put a pin cushion in it and say it was done. So what I chose was this. This is Autumn Saltboxes number 2 by Praiseworthy Stitches, and I made it into a pillow pin cushion. So it's off the WIP list as the whole sewing kit. But then apparently I also listed this as a start all by itself. So it was also finished in January of 2020. I added a scripture because all of the pieces in my basic sewing kit, I added a scripture to them. This is the back. And this is 1/2 on 40 count Autumn Filled by Silkweaver. I just love how it turned out. Okay, second finish, well, third, because that counted as 2, was the January. Oh, I meant to bring that upstairs. I'll bring it up for my WIP parade if you're going to watch the WIP parade, and you can see it. I'll have it sitting on the table. I have a Perpetual calendar by SamSarah. It's called Fun Every Day Perpetual Calendar. The designer is SamSarah. You have to buy all 12 leaflets to make the whole calendar. They hang from the little wire frame. I'll bring it up for the next video. But this is, it didn't have, I either didn't like the January month card that came in the leaflets or didn't have one. I can't remember. Not the month January, but it has this place for holidays or weather over on the end. And I kind of wanted one for every month so I could keep turning that over, but the leaflet series didn't have a holiday for every single month, or I didn't like the holiday that was in January. I can't remember the design. I cannot even remember if it had one. But I wanted a holiday looking fun seasonal piece for that last place for January. So this is from Winter Arches, Bent Creek, and I just adapted the design to fit on this card so it'd be the same size as the rest, and I kind of used the same colors as the rest of the project. And I just need to glue it to its tag so it can hang with everybody else. This was the January calendar card. And I also did, in March, I finished the March calendar card, which I'll show you while I have it out right now. This is from the Spring Arches by Bent Creek. And I adapted the design so it would fit and be the same format as all the other cards. So those were those 2. Then there was Words to Live By. This was a mystery monthly stitch along by Tiny Modernist. It went for the year 2019, and then I finished it up in January. I believe you can still purchase this from Tiny Modernist. Mine is on, it's 2/2 on 32 count black linen with the called for DMC. I didn't think about where I was going to put these when they're done. Next is the Red Door. This is by Elizabeth Designs. It's 2/2 on 32 count mystery linen. I pulled it out of my stash, I don't know, and it wasn't labeled. And I used overdyed cotton from my stash, mostly. I changed the colors up a little bit. It was a little, it came with the little cat charm, and it came with one color, the overdyed red, to do the door with. But I didn't like the color of the overdyed that mine came with, so I changed it. I just picked a red that I liked out of my stash. And then the other colors, it was purple, and I think the flowers were purple. And the pot was a different color, and the steps were a gray. So I changed all of those. Oh yeah, down here. The next one is, that I finished, was the Victorian Charm Dimensions Kit. I used the kit fabric, which is an 18 count dark blue Aida, and I used the kit threads. It is 2/1 because it's Aida. but it was 2 strands for most of it. That had been a whip for a couple of years, so I was very excited to finish that. It's creased because I had it, you may remember, I had it pinned to the wall. It was behind me, downstairs in my sewing room where I usually film. But that was a lot of fun to finish. I need to get it framed. I need to get all of these framed. Next was Utopia. I think I finished this in April. This is by Camille Collier Camps. I bought it through my LNS. I just had them order it for me. I did notice it's available to purchase, or it used to be last year, on the Jardin Privé website. I don't know if she's affiliated with them or they just they carry her stuff. I don't know. Camille Collier Camps. This is 40 count autumn filled by Silkweaver, and I did it 1/2 with the called for DMC. And I love it because there are little houses down in the tree, little birds on swings up in the tree. That one was very fun to stitch. Then I did a couple of freebies. We were in the middle of the pandemic when all the freebies came out and I wanted to do them. So I did Let Joy Be Unconfined by the Blue Flower. Mine is on 40 count alabaster linen, which I believe is by Zweigert. And I just pulled threads from my stash. The called for threads were silks, and I think I did use silk, but I just pulled all silks from my stash. Put this blue fabric on the back. I actually finished it into a pillow. I'm so impressed with myself. And then I also did Let's Stay Home by Satsuma Street. Joy Unconfined was 1/2. Satsuma Street, Let's Stay Home was also 1/2 on 40 count Rainbow by Silkweaver. It has a very light, almost looked like Kool-Aid had been spilled on the fabric, several different colors of Kool-Aid. I don't know if you can see it very well in this piece. This little piece, and I used the called for DMC, except that I changed the greens. I changed the greens to a whole different color family. I used 368, 904, 906, and 907. And the back is green as well. This one's just polyfill. These two are just very lightweight polyfill. This one was walnut shells. And then I finished one of my oldest whips, Ambassadeur Berthe du Pont, 1913, by Marie Francois. This pattern is still available. It's on a French website. If you go back, if you search the name, or if you go back to my older videos when I was still working on this, you'll see the information. I loved working on this piece. It's on 32 count white Lugana with the called for DMC, except that I changed the greens, I changed the browns, and I added a yellow. Because these flowers right here were charted to be kind of a really light tan taupe color, and I wanted them to be yellow. So I just chose just a shade lighter than this yellow. I think this is 676, 677, the color that I added. But if you go back to my older videos where I was working on it, I list the colors in the description box. I loved working on the middle part. I loved that rose border for like the first, I think I had maybe this much of it done and was thoroughly sick of it. It's a complicated border, but it just keeps repeating, so it's like a mini piece over and over and over again. So Catherine took it home, my daughter Catherine, 2 years in a row. She always takes a couple pieces home right around Mother's Day and my birthday that I'm sick of, and works on them a little bit and brings them back so that I'm not so sick of them anymore. Kind of gives me a little jump start. And she ended up doing the whole, over 2 years, she did the whole rest of the border for me, except left me like this much on this side so that I would have to finish up the border. And then I did all the inside. But that was so, it was one of my oldest whips, and it was really nice. I think it was from 2010 maybe. It was nice to have that off of my list and finished so I could enjoy it. All right, harvest time, Prairie Schooler, 1/2 on grassy plain linen by Silkweaver, and I used the called for DMC. Thought it would be cute as a pillow. This beautiful brown fabric on the back. And I actually finished it. All right, next is You Are My Sunshine by the Bay Needle Arts. Glow in Stitches sent us this, Gloria, because she thought Catherine would love it, and I agree. So I stitched it. Catherine did a little bit of stitching on it, so we could say we both worked on it. And then I'm going to make it into a pillow and give it to Catherine. This right here is all French knots. So I don't know if you can see, but it makes it kind of a 3D effect. And it is 3 strands of floss over 2 fabric threads on 28 count natural light linen. So cute. And then this is the Heirloom Christmas sampler by Victoria Sampler, which was in craft prison for years. It was probably my oldest whip. I bet it's from, I don't even know how old. Probably be mid-2000s somewhere. I can't remember. And it is a really long, beautiful piece, like all of Victoria Samplers are, with some drawn thread work, some cut work, some gorgeous heart anger down at the bottom. I had this much done forever, got it out to work on it, and realized I was not interested in finishing the rest of it, and realized it would look beautiful the way it was. So I ended it right there and decided it was finished. So I will get that framed and so I can pull it out and hang it up at Christmas time. It's a gorgeous pattern. Signs of Spring was another piece just like that had been in craft prison forever. This is a class I took from Diane Clements in, I don't know, 2008, something like that. 2007, can't remember. It had been in craft prison forever as well. It was all finished except for this cut work reticello part. You basically cut a hole in the fabric and then you do this, what I did macrame in the 70s. I made a plant hanger for my mother and I made a wall hanging. This is macrame. Those are all macrame knots, only you're doing it with a tiny little thread and a needle instead of tying it with your hands like you do in macrame. So you have to weave the threads back into this border and do all these complicated knots to make this. It's called reticello. And I had done the most of this practice piece in the class when we took the class. And then you were just on a scrap piece of fabric. And she said, oh, you could make this into a needle book or something, save it, don't throw it away. But that was just the practice piece. And then we were supposed to do it again on the real piece. So it was all finished, had a hole cut in the fabric, had the border of the stitches around it. And I just couldn't work up the energy to do that reticello work again. So what I finally did, as you recall, if you were watching me over the summer, I cut the practice piece out and I just sewed it to the back so that it shows through. And it's finished. And then I just had a couple, I needed to add the sequins and do this gold work right here that I was saving till the very end. Lots of specialty stitches in this piece that I learned for the first time when I worked on this piece for this class. There's queen stitches here. Oh, this whole stem work is queen stitches, it looks like. I was thinking it was Montenegrin, but it's not. There's eyelet, there's black work, there's satin stitch. This whole tulip is satin stitch. This, I don't remember the stitch that you do with this gold thread right through here. It makes big loop looking things. It was a lot of fun. I really, all this white work, detached buttonhole on these tiny little flowers. It was a lot of fun to work on. It was a class piece. You could only get it by taking her class, and she has since passed away. So that was wonderful to get that out of craft prison and off my WIP list, and it's beautiful. I need to get it framed. Then I finished The Secret Garden. This was a mystery monthly, or no, not monthly, it was every couple of weeks stitch along with through Sapphire Mountain Handicrafts. Handicrafts, can't remember. But we read The Secret Garden book while we stitched on the piece. That was a lot of fun. Mine is on Barnwood Ada, and it's 2/1 because it's Ada, but it was 2 strands of thread. Then Mini Hometown Game Board, finished that in July. This is by Little House Needleworks. It was a freebie originally back in the mid-2000s, like 2005, 6, something like that. And it might still be, I know there are stores who still have the old copies of the freebies that will give them to you when you go shop there. I think Keepsakes has it. I saw this at Keepsakes finished like this on a half-size bobbin box and thought, I have that pattern. I need to pull it out and do that. I love that. So I did mine on, I was trying to figure out what size of fabric to do it on to make it fit on the top of this box. So mine is on 30 count beige by Weeks Dye Works. And I actually, to make it fit a little nicer, it was going to fit perfectly this way, but it was going to have a little bit of extra space on the sides. I added an extra tree on either side, and I added these stars along the edge just to make it fit the top of this box better. Little House Needleworks put several of their freebies into a chart eventually called Something Old, Something New, and this was one of the charts included in that chart. It had like 6 or 8 freebie patterns in it, and then they had 2 new patterns in there that had never been released before. That chart is since out of print, I believe. I think you can still find it on the secondary market. Or you may be able to still find this as a freebie chart by itself. There are 4 different mini game boards with different seasons included in that were all originally freebies that are included in that chart. Okay, I know there are 3. Now I can't remember if there are 3 or 4. Anyway. And I'm so proud of myself, I actually finished it and put it on the box. Thank you, Keepsakes. Tomato season. I finished this in September, I think. It's got fuzz on it. And apparently I haven't trimmed the extra fabric off yet. All right, this is by Not Forgotten Farm. It's on 40 count vanilla bean linen by Tree of Life Samplings, and it is 1/2. I did use the called for colors, except that I changed the reds. I changed the tomato to a silk schoolhouse red just because I wanted the variegation, and I wanted the silk is a little bit fatter than DMC, and I wanted really good coverage on that tomato. And then all the rest of the reds are DMC, and I changed them to 350, 349, and 817. But then the darkest red, I used that schoolhouse red, Gloriana. Otherwise, it's the called for DMC. That was a lot of fun to work on, but that tomato is something like 3,000 stitches. It took forever. But we almost always grow homegrown tomatoes every year. Grew up on them, love homegrown. Store-bought ones do just not taste the same. So I had to do that one. Then I finished May I. This is by All Through the Night. It is the, oh, it called for overdyed cotton and I didn't have all of them, so I pulled some from my stash that looked similar. This is 18 count black Aida, and I used 2 strands of floss. Positivity Rules. This was a fun stitch along through Caterpillar cross stitch. It was a mystery stitch along. I think it lasted for 5 months. You can still buy this pattern from them. Her online store, Caterpillar Cross Stitch. It's on 40 count blush by Zweigert with the called for DMC, and it's 1/2. Then I did this Gingerbread House. It was a Mill Hill kit on perforated paper. I just need to cut it out and glue some felt to the back, or paper, either one, and make it into an ornament. I think I'll do felt. But it is like over half beads, I think, and a little less than half stitching. It's 2 strands of floss. I used the kit floss and the beads that came with the kit. That was fun. It's the first Mill Hill ornament I have made. Then these were all in December. I finished the Mill Hill kit. This is the Linen and Threads Mystery Stitch Along, free. This is a free, he does a free stitch along every year. It is a mystery. You don't know what it's going to look like. You get a piece in your email, a PDF in your email once a month to do the next section. This was 12 sections for 2020, and I did finish it in December, the last section. If you go to their website, Linen and Threads, the patterns are still available for the free stitch along he has done for the last several years. And he is doing another one for 2021. I did mine there. This was charted just as a monochromatic piece. I chose 4 different overdyed blue silk out of my stash, and then 1 gray green color, kind of as an accent color. If you go back to my last video, it shows what colors I used. It lists the colors that I used. That was a lot of fun to work on. Mine is on 40 count alabaster linen, I think by Zweigert, and it is 1/2. And then I also finished the Modern Folk Embroidery 2020 stitch along. It was not a mystery. He showed us what it would look like at the beginning of the year, and then you got, once a month, he would send out the PDF for that section for that month. So you didn't have the whole pattern at the beginning, but you did know what it was going to look like at the beginning. He is also doing a gorgeous one for 2021 that he has showed already. He has a Flosstube channel. If you haven't watched him yet, Modern Folk Embroidery, that is fun to watch. And he shows it on there. Beautiful blues. This one is on 25 count even weave, 1/1, and I used this beautiful orange. Yellow color is Supernova by Mrs. Seda Silks. And then the green is Belsois silk in the color Granny Smith. That was fun. Then I participated in the Friend Stitch Zoom. I participated in the Zoom retreat, Friend Stitch Zoom retreat, put on by Bent Creek and Heart and Hand in September. And this was one of the pieces from the kit that they mailed us. It's called Gift of Peace. It's a 2-part piece. I just did the first part so far. I will do the other piece. They're meant to go next to each other. The chart was exclusive to the retreat, so I don't think you will be able to get it. I love the trees, and I love the pattern in the snow. Oh, that was so pretty. This is 32 count casual, no, platinum, 32 count platinum linen. And then my last finish for 2020 was the one that I finished in the last 2 weeks. Sky Blue Street by Soda Stitch. About halfway through December, when I had finished Modern Folk Embroidery and Linen and Threads and the Gingerbread House, I thought, oh, I just really want one more finish so that I can end the year with one less whip than I started with. So I looked through all the ones that were a possibility, and this was the one that had the, amazingly enough, or scary enough, however you want to say it, this was the one that had the least amount of stitching left on it. But when I pulled it out, I think it was December 14th, December 16th. You'll be able to tell from my Instagram. I had started in the middle, so I had just this much done over to, I had a little bit of this house done and part of the door. So I had about this much done on December 14th or 16th, whenever that was. And I thought, okay, could I finish this by the end of the year? So I finished over to this edge. And then I went back to the middle and went over to this edge. And I finished it about a week ago, I think. I think it was a couple days after Christmas. I think it was like the 28th, something like that. I can't see. This is 36 count white linen. I used 2 strands of thread. I started this as a mania piece a year and a half ago with 1 strand on 36 count and had, gosh, I had this whole middle section done and about half of this building, I think, and decided I just did not like the coverage. So Catherine took it home in May and she went back over everything I had already done with 1 more strand so that it was 2 strands. And then from there, I just kept using 2 strands. Thank you, Catherine. And then I was, you know, those pieces that you just don't want to work on it because you're just not happy with it. Well, after that, I was happy with it. So it was much easier to work on. I love the Soda Stitch colors. They're so bright and cheerful. I am going to I think I'm going to look for a basket or a box that has the right circumference and put this around the side of it. I'm not going to frame it. And that was my last finish for 2020. All right, I will reset and then I will do my whip parade in just a few minutes. You'll probably see these both uploaded about the same time later today. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.